Hello to all my sports card collector, investor, all my collectibles friends. It is Monday. I hope that everybody is having a really good day today. I'm excited to do this video. This one is going to cover some of the most frequently asked questions that I get, and I'm doing this in conjunction with Brad, the comeback card investor. He's also doing the same video on his channel, albeit not as good as this one, but still, we'll just get through it, guys. We'll just, put up with this, right? We'll put up with it. If you're new here, we've got over 500 videos on the channel all about collectibles, a lot of sports card content because I just love sports cards. I'm in it on a daily basis. And so you will see a lot of sports card content, but also comic books, action figures, starting lineups, all sorts of different things, NFTs, NBA Top Shot. We talk about all of it here. And so hit that subscribe button, karate chop the notification bell, as my son and daughter would say. We come out with just about daily content and we will keep it coming for you. All right, the first question I get that I'm going to tackle, it's one that is commonly asked, and it's, should I sell this particular card right now or should I wait? And this one, it's always a loaded question because this is really up to each individual sports card investor or collector. I mean, there's never going to be the right time where you catch everything at the top, and so if something does go up, the old saying of there's never a bad time to take a profit, I think that's the thing to remember, and you have to be comfortable with when you are selling. The other thing is opportunity cost. A lot of times I will sell a card because I'm looking at other cards that I am interested in, and it might be short-term flips or it might be long-term holds, and I'm trying to raise capital in essence to buy those cards. And so there might be certain cards where they've gone up a little bit, or I might have some where they've gone up maybe even 10-20%, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but in the sports card world we've had jumps of 50%, 100%, 1,000%. So I've sold cards where I'm essentially almost breaking even on that card, where maybe I had a plan for it initially, and then that plan changes based on market dynamics, based on opportunity costs. There's just other cards, other opportunities out there that I really like, and so I want to take advantage. And so that's another time where I will move a card. But it gets kind of tricky because we've seen a lot of volatility to where a lot of times a card will double or it will triple, and people just kind of hang on. It's going to go up 4 times and 5 times and 10 times, and maybe that will happen, or maybe it'll go up 2 times and then go back down to what it was before. So that's part of what makes this fun, is the volatility. But I typically like to, my goal is to double my money if it's possible. Sometimes I've done better than that. Other times I haven't, and I've sold it. Like I said, I've sold and just broken even on some cards to where I had initially bought it with some expectations, and then it's like, you know what? Maybe it's an injury, or maybe that player's not performing to where I thought that they were going to be a year ago or a year later. And so I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on from that card. And an opportunity cost always is something that pops up with this particular question and is important for me. And it's just based on each individual. Is it a short-term plan for you? It is a long-term plan, and it's okay for the plan to change, frankly. I mean, we kind of have to roll with the market sometimes. So you might have a long-term plan on a player, and then something happens and you're like, maybe that long-term plan isn't viable anymore. And maybe you have a short-term plan for a player, and then you're thinking, well, hey, maybe this guy is a long-term prospect for me. Maybe I'm going to hold this longer. So I think it's just being fluid. And the market for me is what I try to do. I don't have a hard and fast rule. I've got goals of how I'm going to get out of that particular card. I have a plan going in, but the plan can change, and I think that's okay. Where is the best place to sell my cards? You have some options. You have a variety. eBay is kind of the most popular spot, but the fees are high. You're paying about 13% to sell your cards on eBay. There's risks involved with buying and selling on eBay, but all in all, fairly good experience being able to buy, sell. It's the largest market. So if you need eyeballs on a card, eBay is really where it's at. You might have lower fees at other platforms, but that is in part to less buyers looking at those cards. So really just kind of depends. I mean, whether it's, Star Stock or ComC, or any of the new platforms. My Slabs is one that's popular because of the low fees. So it just kind of depends. And I'm sure we'll see new platforms as well. I think there's going to be more selling platforms. eBay will have more competition, I think, as time goes on. And I hope that they do, because I think that's good for everyone. It's good. I would like to see eBay be pressed, a little bit to be better, and maybe to lower their fees to compete. That would be awesome. I think there's that competition in that space. I'm hoping for it, but it's very easy to buy cards. It's not as easy to sell cards. So just keep that in mind when you're buying cards. There's the excitement of, buy, and oh, this card is cool, but really have a plan going in and understand that you might not be able to sell that for what you paid for it. And, and you might be able to do better. There are risks involved, obviously, but that's something that I definitely have to say, because I do buy quite a few cards, and it's a lot easier to buy than it is to sell. So definitely keep that in mind. The next question, do I think XYZ player is a buy right now? Another kind of loaded question, because it's, it really just depends. And it's part of the reason why I use historical data, using the card ladder tool, and also using ratio trends and patterns through the market movers tool. I use both. And the reason why that is because it gives me a great idea as to whose prices are down and whose prices are up. And I use those as opportunities. If a player's prices are way up and I have some of those cards, maybe that's a selling opportunity for me. If the prices are way down on a player and it's a player I really like and believe in, and just so happens that prices are down for particular cards, then maybe that's a buying opportunity. And so that's where I use data tools to help figure that out, because frankly, it's very, very difficult, especially across multiple sports, to be on eBay all day long, tracking all of that stuff manually. It can be done, and I do it too. I have the data tools, but I'm also on eBay looking at different things as well, making comparisons. But that's where it really just depends on, there's so much inventory out there, guys, so many cards. If you miss out on an auction on a card, guess what? There will be another awesome card to bid on. So don't, unless you're looking for ultra scarce stuff, that's high dollar stuff, those are cards that might come about for sale once a year, once every other year, a couple times a year. Then yeah, those are ones where, you might feel like, okay, I missed out on that. I might not get another shot for a year. But even for cards that are rare like that, those are coming up more and more often for sale as well, just because of the high prices that have come about over the last 18 months. So like I said, there's so much inventory out there. If there's a player that you really like, whoever that player is, there's bound to be a variety of options. So I think it's just patience. Patience is so key with this. The FOMO is real, regardless of whether you're buying prospects or goats or whatever sport. The FOMO is always there. Sometimes I'm chasing auctions that I shouldn't be. It just depends on it all depends. And there's kind of an emotional piece of this too, where we're collectors battling with our investor side as well, where, it's like, use your brain. Maybe we don't need to bid on this. Maybe we can just chill. And then there's the collector side that's like, man, but that's a wicked patch on that card though. I really want that one. So that's kind of the inner, the inner turmoil always going on with all of us, I think. Because frankly, I think that the majority of us are hybrid investor collectors. So I think that's kind of a tricky piece. So is it time to buy a certain player? Regardless of whoever that player is, the goal is to buy low and sell high if you're planning on selling. And so, if you're buying at all-time highs, and again, that's where data tools they help, because I can see like, oh, am I buying at an all-time high for this card compared to where it's been previously? Or is this at a low? That's where they come in handy. It's very quick to be able to search it, find it, and be like, okay, I'm paying a price that I'm comfortable with based on these trend lines, or it's, I'm paying at the very top. I'm just going to wait because I don't want to be the guy that's buying at the top and then next month this thing is down 50%. So always keep that in mind. There's always going to be opportunities to buy cards unless it's ultra rare stuff, but the reality is most of us are not buying, six-figure cards, high five-figure cards that are that rare. So just, I guess that's the thing to keep in mind for me. It always depends on the player, the card, the set, etc. But there's so much inventory that it's probably okay to just be very, very patient. What cards are worth grading? This is a conversation that is evolving. And why is it evolving? Well, grading companies have all raised their prices just about. I think all of them have. I think we've covered it. PSA has, CSG, I believe, just raised prices. SGC raised prices. I don't know if Beckett had raised prices, but they already had raised prices over the last 6 to 9 months. So grading is getting more expensive. I don't really see that changing. You know, when you look at like the PSA, I don't think that it's ever going to be $20 for a graded card again at PSA. I really don't. I think there will be a minimum of $50, $75, whatever it is. I just don't think they're going back to, unless they've got a really smooth operating, a way to do the lower end cards, just with AI helping. There's got to be like a way for them to quickly get through those $10, $15, $20, $25 cards. But I just don't see that happening in the near future. Maybe they'll come back to a $20 offering or a $25 service. I think it's going to be years before they do, though, because I think they're going to really need to get all the infrastructure in place that they're working on now. And I don't see any of the other grading companies being able to do it. If PSA can't, I just don't think that BGS and SGC and CGC, and they're all running together. HGA, these companies, I just think it's going to be tough. So with that being said, it's a huge twist in what people have been doing, because a lot of people have been buying raw, grading, selling. People have made a lot of money over the last few years buying raw, grading, and selling, and now that is all changing. I mean, the way the hobby is operating is different. And so are there going to be opportunities still to buy raw, grade? Yeah, there are, but they're definitely fewer. It's not going to be like every card we send in for grading and everything comes back and we make money on it. It's definitely going to be more precise, I think, now, which probably good for the hobby, frankly. But it's going to be different. It's going to be different. How are people going to adjust their business models? What platforms are going to come, into effect? If you look, the star stocks of the world and the fractional share companies, a lot of this stuff has really come about over the last 12, 18 months, 2 years. It's all fairly new stuff that is trying to meet demand, it's trying just to meet all this consumer demand. And so that's part of the fun of this. It's part of the fun. But it's going to be a big decision, because now if you're paying $50, $75, $100, $300 to get a card graded, and then you have to wait on that card coming back, if you think about how much that grading fee is, that's money that you could be putting into other raw cards or other already graded cards, frankly. When you're putting $100 to grade a card, that better be something that's worthwhile. And honestly, and I'm not a big buy raw to grade. I don't have years and years of experience doing it. That's not the way that I hobby, if you will. I buy raw, sell raw, buy graded, sell graded. But I would just be extremely nervous, to go down that path right now until until everything is kind of worked out. I would have, for modern cards, if you are not if you don't have a good profit getting a 9 back on a modern card, then is it worth sending in? I think and then of course it depends on the scarcity of the card. It depends on so many different factors, but gone are the days, I think, where you're risking it all for a 10. I think people are going to be more mindful of that, just hoping that they get, half of them are 10s. Because if half of them, if 75% come back 9s, you might lose money on the whole deal. And this is not a cheap game to play in anymore. When you're talking about $100, $200, $300 a card to grade, and then you have the cost of the card to get it in the first place. Maybe you've cracked it and you're submitting. There's all these costs going into it that, everything's got to jive for you to come out ahead. So I think that's going to be where, there's going to be a lot more risk now. And I would say be careful, be very, very careful. The days of just buying raw to grade and it's all profit, now the risk is there. Now there's risk where it's like, if I send this in and it doesn't work out on the grading side, I'm going to get smoked on this lot. So that's where I think people have to be really careful and know what they're doing and really pay attention to it. All right, and the last question, how much should I sell my Polar Bear Parallel Luka Doncic rookie card for? I don't know, guys. It's like there's so many different parallels and variants. There's so much of this is how much did you pay for it? What do you need the money for? Are you paying your bills with this? Is this your livelihood or is this a hobby? Are you big on Luka long term? Is it just a short term play? Are you not really into sports cards and you just kind of trying to turn and make a few bucks? So many different questions that go into this. So many questions going back to that question. But again, that's why it makes it such an impossible question to answer, because you really have to figure this out for yourself. And have a really good plan on what you're going to do too. Are you taking that money and putting that into other Luka cards? Are you putting that into Michael Jordan cards? Are you putting it into Mickey Mantle cards? Are you putting that into your 401k? Are you putting that into something completely different, real estate? I would just say, have a plan when you sell that card. I heard someone say, this was a great kind of analogy story where I think it was I can't remember where I heard the story, but essentially guy had a card where the card was now worth like $10,000. And he was asking his dad, like, should I sell this card? And the dad was like, well, are you going to want that card again? And will you ever be able to get it for more or for less than $10,000? Do you think it's going to appreciate? And he's like, no, I probably won't be able to get it again. And the dad's like, well, would you want to have it again? He's like, yeah, absolutely. I would want to have it again. And the dad was basically like, I don't think that you should sell it then. If you are going to go back out to try to get it again, if it's a rare card like this, maybe you should just hold on to it. And so that was kind of interesting. It's kind of one of those things is if it's a very scarce card, the chances of it continuing to kind of rise over time are better than very common cards. So if you've got a 52 Mickey Mantle or something and you're like, you know what, I'm going to sell this for $50,000, and maybe the price does drop down and you're able to, buy it back later on. But, it's a risk that's a risk because of the scarcity. And we're talking like the top 0.01% of sports cards, or non-sports cards for that matter. So there's the real scarce stuff. You might not get opportunities to buy back. And so that's a big question mark of, are you okay not being able to acquire this card again if you sell it? And I think that's a good plan, assuming that you don't need the money for rent and for necessities. So that is just extra, money that you have on the side. All right, guys, if you have not checked out Brad, the Comeback Card Investors channel yet, check him out. He's doing a very similar video to this. Like I said, and it's not going to be as good as this one. I'm just letting you know up front. But definitely check out his video. He's got a great channel. And guys, stay positive, stay confident, stick together through this kind of weird time that we're going through. I think we're getting through it. We're starting to get through on the other end of it. And apologies if you've really had a rough go of it the last 12 months. I feel for everyone. We've also been going through stuff as well, but not as bad as others, and so we feel really, really, really lucky, frankly. And, I just want you all to know that if you're really struggling, we're thinking of you, and just keep on pressing, just keep on pushing, and we're going to get through this. All of us are going to get through this together. So have an amazing Monday, and I will talk to you again later. Take care.